Hi everyone, my name is Rebecca Juan from AB Poli of University of Southern Mindanao. And today, my discussion or presentation is all about a political theorist named Benito Mussolini. So, but before that, but before I move to him being a political theorist, let us first know about Benito Mussolini, his biography, his background, where he came from, and many more. Benito Mussolini was born on July 29, 1883 in Italy and sadly died on April 28, 1945 near Dongo, Italy. Mussolini was the first child of the local blacksmith. Mussolini family was in fact less humble than he claimed. His father and father was a part-time socialist journalist as well as a blacksmith. Was the son of a lieutenant in the National Guard, and his mother was a school teacher, but then the Mussolinis were certainly poor. Mussolini was disobedient, unruly, and aggressive as a child. He was a bully at school and a moody at home. Because of him being a disobedient, unruly, and aggressive, the teacher could not control him. Therefore, he was sent to board with the strict Silesia. But then, because he was sent there, he proved himself more troublesome than ever, stabbing a fellow pupil with a penknife and attacking one of his Salesians who had attempted to beat him. He was also expelled and sent to Jesuit Carducci School at Forlimpopoli because of the thing he did on his past school. But then, when he sent to Forlimpopoli, he was also expelled because of another assault of another pupil with his penknife. But despite that, he was an intelligent student. He passed his examinations without any difficulty. Despite of him being unruly, aggressive, and difficult to handle, Benito Mussolini was an intelligent student. When he aged 19, he left Italy for Switzerland. He left Italy for Switzerland with no money at all. Only the medallion of Karl Marx on his otherwise empty pocket, and jumped from one place to another, find one job to another because he doesn't have any money at all. He was gaining a reputation as a young man of strange magnetism and remarkable rhetoric talents, which is his writings. Him being a public speaker, a writer. While earning a reputation as a political journalist and public speaker, he became a political journalist and public speaker. He produced propaganda for a trade union, proposing a strike and advocating violence as a means of enforcing demands. Repeatedly, he called for a day of vengeance. When he became a political journalist and public speaker, he produced a propaganda for a trade union that proposed a strike for violence or advocating violence as a means of enforcing demands. Therefore, for him, he was a pro of violence in order to rule people. He was still a public journalist that time, but he is already proposing violence for demands. Because of that, more than once, because of him being a public speaker and a journalist, he was arrested more than once and even imprisoned. But then, after that, so we are already done to his background and biography. Now, we still kept on asking, who is Benito Mussolini? How did he become a political theorist? Here it is. Benito Mussolini was an Italian political leader who became the fascist dictator of Italy from 1925 to 1945. So he was known of being a fascist dictator when he was a political leader on Italy. Originally a revolutionary socialist, he forged the paramilitary fascist movement in 1999 and became prime minister in 1922. So he was a revolutionary socialist, and then he was the founder or the one who built the paramilitary fascist movement during 1999. Mussolini gradually dismantled the institution of democratic government in 1925 and made himself a dictator, which made him to take the title of Tudus, which means the leader. When he became a prime minister and political leader during that time, he dismantled the institution of democratic government and turned it to become a dictatorship kind of government or forms ruled. He set about attempting to re-establish Italy as a great European power. Because of the power he had the guts to re-establish the Italy into a great European power. The regime was held together by strong state control and Mussolini's cult of personality. Benito Mussolini ruled as a dictator of Italy from 1922 to 1943, and his political philosophy, which he called fascism, was based on a total domination of the government in all spheres of political, social, economic, and cultural life. So when he was proposed to become a dictator or a leader of fascist, his political philosophy, fascism, was based on total domination of political, social, and economic cultural life. Initially seen by the Italian people as a hero, he was seen as a hero of the Italians. Mussolini was driven from government before the end of World War II. So, what are his notable works and ideas? Let's find out his notable works and ideas on how he became a political theorist. What are his works? Why did he become a political theorist? Aside from being a political leader and a dictator leader, how did he become a political theorist? Here it is. While earning a reputation as a political journalist, as I mentioned earlier, and public speaker, he produced propaganda for a trade union. That was the first thing of his works. It proposed a strike for violence or even advocating violence as a means of enforcing demands. Like I mentioned earlier, I explained earlier, repeatedly, he called for a day of vengeance. More than once, he was arrested and imprisoned. When he returned to Italy in 1904, even the Roman newspapers had started to mention his name. When he was still in Switzerland, he proposed the propaganda of him being a journalist and public speaker. He used that as a tool to oppose to anything and write for pro-violence for demands. Because of that, he was famous when he returned to Italy, that even his name on the newspaper was mentioned, especially to the Roman newspaper. He was even recognized as one of the most gifted and dangerous of Italy's younger socialists. Because of his gift and skills in writing and public speaking, and the ability to oppose or do something despite of him not being that powerful enough, he gained a title of being a true dangerous man. After writing in a wide variety of socialist papers, he found a newspaper of his own, which is the La Lotta de Classe, which in English means the class struggle. Because of that, when he found that newspaper, La Lotta de Classe, he found a way to express and write his stand and anything that he thinks he has the right to. Because of that, it was so successful that this paper made him appointed as an editor of the official socialist newspaper Avante, in English Forward, in 1912. Because of the newspaper, he found La Lotta de Classe. When it was being successful, many people noticed it, and he was appointed to be an editor of the official socialist newspaper. The circulation of it also doubled because of the opportunity given to him. As its anti-militarist, anti-nationalist, and anti-imperialist editor, he thunderously opposed Italy's intervention in World War I because of the power he had when he was appointed as an editor of the official socialist movement. He had the guts to oppose the Italy's intervention during World War I. That's how powerful he is, despite of him not too powerful enough, because he had the guts. He doesn't care whether he would be imprisoned. He doesn't care. He was a true dangerous man. With the current Italian politics, Mussolini mobilized the fascist party to march on Rome and put such pressure on King Victor Emmanuel that he offered Mussolini to take over and form a new government in 1922. See the power he had. Mussolini formed the fascist party and ruled them to march to Rome and put such pressure to the king that even the King Victor Emmanuel was being pressured, and because of that, because of the thing Mussolini did, the king was pressured and put power to Mussolini to take over and form a new government. And it makes him the youngest ever prime minister in Italy. So see the power he had. because of him being a public speaker and a journalist, as well as a strong person, a dangerous person, he pressured King Victor Emmanuel to make him the youngest ever prime minister of the Italy. By 1938, Mussolini had aligned with Hitler, the pack of steel, and began to enforce anti-Semitic laws and values. So that started all. Because of the power he had, he was able to enforce anti-Semitic laws and values because of him being a prime minister already. So next, after removing all political oppositions through his secret police and outlawing labor strikes, Mussolini and his followers consolidated power through a series of laws that transformed the nation into a one-party dictatorship. So that doesn't stop there. Mussolini even removed all political oppositions that opposed him, and even consolidated power through a series of law that transformed into a one-party dictatorship. Because of that doing, he was able to form a one-party of dictatorship because he was a dictator, political theorist, political leader. Within 5 years, Mussolini had established dictatorial authority by both legal and illegal means and aspired to create a totalitarian state. See? Only 5 years. It took only 5 years for Mussolini to establish a dictatorial authority, while us, 5 years, we are still struggling studying. But then, it's not really right thing to do because Mussolini didn't just use legal means, but he also used illegal means for creating the totalitarian state and dictatorial authority. That's why he was a dictator, political leader, because he is not using only legal means but also he is using illegal means to guide his authority, to make authority to the people, to exercise his power. In 1929, Mussolini signed the Lateran Treaty with the Holy See to establish Vatican City. See, Mussolini may be a dictator, political leader, but he established a Vatican City, which is very dependent country. Very independent country now, because Vatican City, though it is not recognized as an independent state, but still it can become an independent state because Vatican City has a resources, any means, without even depending to other countries. It can be independent on its own. Benito Mussolini was called fascist dictator. As we all know that he was called a fascist dictator. Because of him being a fascist dictator, his political theory was fascism. So what are the strengths and weaknesses of fascism? Let's see. First is the unrevealed security. You can barely overstate the significance of militarism in improving the security of every citizen. Usually, this form of leadership would prioritize the rights and integrity of the states to the citizens. What is more, building the military and strengthening it was the only way that fascists would stay in power for long. Next, nationalism versus patriotism here. This mode of government focused on building the nation, with the leaders highlighting the necessity to support their vision and developing the nation's economy. Patriotism will come out naturally. The fear of punishment would also make someone defend the country at all costs. This way, beside avoiding punitive measures, you get loyal to the course of the nation. Last is the straightforward decision-making process. There is no denying that this system hardly allows any instances of bureaucracy. That is because power is absolute and it is central to one person. With this, the decisions will often be dependent on those at the apex of governance, mostly the ruler. Nothing could come in handier in avoiding delays than this. Besides, faster decision-making means that handling emergencies will be seamless. There are so many strengths of being fascism, the form of fascism. But what are the weaknesses of fascism? We will have a limited freedom of speech and human rights. One of the pillars of fascism is to kill the opposition. Whether you want to criticize or rebuke the government, you will barely have the avenue to. Any dissenting voice will often result in imprisonment or even death. For this reason, the citizens live in fear of their life, and showing their loyalty to the ruling government becomes the only means for survival. See? Negative impact on the economy. Most fascists will often have the entire economy at their disposal. If they are inexperienced in running it, this could end up being detrimental. While at it, they could come up with policies and instruments that end up suppressing investment. This way, it becomes relatively hard for the country's economy to grow in long run. While at it will be fair to mention that these fascists will often restrict investment from outsiders. And lastly, enhance political power and abuse. With one person at the helm of control, it will be easier for them to take advantage of various self-enriching opportunities. From corruption to blatant abuse of power, advancing their position will be much easier for them. Besides, their close allies and family members could also engage in this practice, putting the whole country into their mercy. There are so many things fascism could impact one's country, one's nation, because there is no perfect form of government to execute in one's nation. But it is also important to know the citizens' rights and opinions of the citizen, to know the needs of one's nation. Being a dictator like Benito Mussolini is not really wrong, but you need to consider also the nation. You need to also consider your citizens, the one you are ruling, the one you are demanding your power. So that's it. My presentation is all about Benito Mussolini. Thank you for listening.